Hello, everyone. Welcome to Libraries in Response, session 140 in our 5 going on 6 year series. Wow. Since the pandemic, of course, which triggered this whole idea of libraries responding to various crises, or not various crises. It was the crisis. I'll get back to that.
Okay, I found this on the web for WoW since the pandemic.
So my name is Don Means.
Are not various crises.
I'm the director of the Gigabit Libraries Network, which is producing the series in partnership with IFLA, the International Federation of Library Associations and Institutions based in The Hague, our longtime partner and ally in the pursuit of universal public access. Universal public access. That doesn't mean broadband in every pocket. It just means broadband in every community, an access point, a public hub everywhere. We think people should be proximate to such a facility. Libraries being ideal, but whatever works for the community. Our speakers today, Nakim Oswege and Hayford Siaw. I'll get back to them. Longtime associates in the pursuits of digital equity and innovation in libraries, and we'll come back to them. But first, we must thank our sponsors who keep this thing going. It's critical, of course, as anyone would understand. And we especially thank the libraries of New Jersey and Texas and Washington and Delaware, the state libraries, that is, and Mission Telecom, our lone commercial sponsor, and IFLA has now joined the group, making a financial contribution to Libraries in Response. We're so grateful to everyone because they make it possible. This is our go-to symbol of crisis response. It started out as a response to the pandemic, but then more crises came along, and the term of the day seems to be polycrisis, which is not just multiple crises that occur simultaneously, but that actually reinforce each other and increase the intensity of the crisis situation. So this is kind of the big four here. I want to visit those briefly, just to kind of zero in a bit. So of course, that's how it started with the COVID-19 virus, and the response was pretty impressive. I mean, the entire world changed. Civilization shifted overnight in response to this pathogen that was killing millions of people. We didn't know how long it would go, how intensely it would spread, and the rest of it. It seemed like that herd immunity, vaccines, and isolation were effective, and also that younger people were not as heavily impacted as older people, which the closing of schools was intended to prevent the transmission of COVID into the household where older people resided, that the students became vectors of transmission. But it dislocated just millions, tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people's lives, billions of people's lives, because these students now stuck at home. And what it brought to the fore was the absolute need for connectivity, for internet, for broadband access like never before. And so that has accelerated adoption and a lot of plans to do that, but it's still not done. It's very much not done, which is our point. The big crisis, of course, is the planet is heating up, and we're just racing into this future present that we know at one level is completely unhealthy, if not totally lethal. But we seem to just keep doing it. And it is pretty dire. The responses are starting to take hold. This is one of the most interesting and fascinating responses is agrovoltaics. So this is the use of putting panels on fields where herds graze. Here we have some sheep, cattle are a little more challenging, but it just be for plants. It turns out that this is very helpful. In this case, the sheep are healthier, their wool is of a higher quality, and they don't need as much water. So that's a big plus, and so it's generating electricity at the same time. So that's it seems to be a real trend, which is good. We need good trends in this particular area. It's also war, which was not quite at the same level that it was when COVID hit, but it's changed. Here we are in day 1,366 of this travesty of aggression, and there's an interesting story, and I invite you all to investigate the response of the Ukrainian libraries, all the different things they've done to support the population. You know, obvious kind of things as shelters of refuge, but also as places to get information. You've got millions of people on the move and needing information about how to do it, where to go, and libraries have been an important vector for that. Helping there's a long list of responses that the heroic libraries of Ukraine have been providing. So we'd love to get them on and hear their story and tell it more widely. AI is, of course, the latest crisis facing us. This is a this is a cartoon by our favorite political cartoonist, Cal, for The Economist magazine. And so Cal is offering a scenario where uh, a prompt is being tested on AI, which happens to be inside of a machine. So this is, of course, the new development is mobile AI and what that all may mean. And here's what it could mean. Is that Vince Cerf put this to us one time about AI. He says it's software and it'll do what you tell it to do, but that may not be what you actually want it to do. So it's a dilemma. It's a huge change and shift and challenge for us, but we're pursuing it. This is interesting. I thought I would share this. There's a lot of text, but a year ago, a friend asked ChatGPT, for a new set of 10 commandments appropriate for the challenges today's humanity. Okay. And it came back with 10 commandments. These are all, they're not earth shaking. They're all benevolent and they're all kind of nice. And some of them are pretty well written. But the point I wanted to make is there's not a single thou shalt not. In the classic 10 commandments, there thou shalt not steal and murder and, there are a handful of prohibitions. But here, the AI didn't see the need to use any prohibitions. They're all do this, do that, do this. So I find that interesting. I'm looking for an update. This is a year old. I wonder if it has changed. The question I have is, where does it get all this? What are the principles and precepts that have informed this particular response? I mean, it's just a wide open question, but why this? It seems especially benign. And yet, as we see the internet change, it's anything but benign. No. So libraries grounded in the principle that informed and an educated citizenry is the key to a free society. The Secretary of State of Washington State, and we could not agree more. And it's ever more important that that becomes a unifying principle and goal for our policy. So, to the program, to our speakers, Hayford and Kim, we're going to ask Nakim to lead off. And Nakim is the director of the African branch of IFLA and has worked with us and on a project, help us identify libraries in Nigeria where we were able to acquire Starlink dishes, the low Earth orbit satellite dishes that can deliver broadband, real broadband, anywhere, seemingly just anywhere. And so that is, well, that's one of the things we're going to get to is connectivity in Africa. There's a future of libraries in Africa. The general story we're really interested in that, and there's also the dependency on connectivity that society has built, and what does the outlook for connectivity in Africa look like, given that the distances are so vast? I think people don't appreciate the size of Africa. They look at the map, and the way the map distorts the actual areas, it makes, the U.S. look, North America look about the same size. It's not. It'll fit inside along with Europe and Australia. I mean, it's just huge. And even though there are 1.5 billion people, they're spread out, and and infrastructure economics, whatever infrastructure, whether it's water, gas, electricity, or telecommunications, all says that the farther you are away from the hub of any network, the core of any network, the more expensive it is to deliver services. Just kind of common sense, right? You have to go farther. People are more spread out the farther away you get from the centers, and they tend to have less money. So all those factors cause the development, the deployment of these infrastructures to run out at some point. And if it's strictly a market force, if it's simply a decision made by ventures that are looking to be profitable, they will stop deploying at the point where the profit stops, where they calculate there's no more return. This has been, it's not just Africa. This is still an issue in the US and a lot of other places where, unless there's an intervention by a regulator, by the government, that says these are essential services, everybody should have water, everybody should have electricity, and it should be, affordable for everybody. It's an essential service. So what we're going to do is we're going to extract some funds from these more profitable markets, urban markets, and we're going to use those to subsidize the less profitable rural markets. And that's how we got electrification in the US. That's how we got universal telephone everywhere on that same principle. Broadband arrived in the mid 90s, and that principle just seemed to fade away. And the carriers said, no, we're not that kind of a venture. We're just technology companies. We're like Intel and Cisco, and we'll just invest where we can expect a return. Consequently, there's still millions of people that have no or very little internet connections. And they're unhappy about it because you just can't really operate in today's world without being connected. So that unhappiness takes a form of, small towns are just, they're drying up. The kids all leave. No companies will move in. There's just no future. And that makes for kind of a circumstance of fear and anger and resentment. And I think that has contributed heavily to the political climate in the US, and I suspect elsewhere, where rural people are unhappy the way they've been neglected. So that's one of our main focuses on how to help the unconnected, especially in rural areas, get connected. So with that, we'll turn to Nakim to tell us kind of what's happening with libraries across Africa and anything you can say about, the state of connectivity. Welcome to Kim.
Hello, Don. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity. I think this is my second or third time being here. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, can we, with the slides. So, let's start with some, we start with a little bit of background. Yes. So, like you said, Don, Africa is huge. Sometimes we don't really get to appreciate how big it is. You just say Africa and you think one thing applies from one country to the other country. And we have 54 countries in Africa and different things are happening. And with a population of 1.5 billion people, you you find out that we are big, and then the interesting thing is that we are mostly young people. I was telling one of my children some days back that in Nigeria, the people below 25 years, they make up more than 60% of the population. You can imagine that. And then also, according to the statistics I saw, that in 2024, only 38% of this huge population in Africa use the internet, and that's quite below the global average. But even this 38%, it doesn't tell the whole story. It doesn't tell the whole story. Like I told you, Don, Africa has the highest number of refugees, the highest number of people in IDP camps, that's internally displaced persons, and then the highest number of out-of-school children. They are not configured into this, so to speak, because this 38% that we are seeing here are mostly people in the urban areas, like you said, because, well, it gets more expensive to connect those in the rural communities. And like you also said, Don, you find out that the young people are leaving the rural areas or even the semi-urban areas, and moving to where they feel that there are opportunities, that they can actualize their dreams and stuff like that. And even beyond that too, there are other masks, the one of gender. You find out too that my gender, our access to internet is lower than the other gender, than the male gender. Then, interestingly, like I said here, there are 6,000 plus public and community libraries in Africa. Now, in mentioning this number, I am aware that we did not consider one-room libraries. We did not consider large libraries, let's say 3 floors of books, shelves, IT stuff, and so on. All of them are lumped together into this. So in here, you find libraries that are really good. You find libraries where I've been to this library in South Africa. I'm trying to somewhere in Cape Town, and there I saw that that they have where you can go and listen to music, where you can go and watch films. Quite a big library. I've also been to a small library in Uganda, Nakaseke Library. It's just one room and then one other adjoining room, there. But still, all of them are in this mix. All of them are libraries. And approximately 6,000 plus. And like I said, that's a ratio of 250,000 persons per library. Now, when you consider that a library may just seat 10 people, You now understand where we are coming from. Next slide, please, Don. Then I searched and searched, and we don't have a continent-wide figure for African libraries that have access to internet. And I think that the reason for that is, like, let's say again, in a place like that Nakaseke in Uganda, they have they were able to get the UNESCO to give them a radio room. Yes, a radio room, that small library, yeah. And they use it to broadcast to the community, about prices of food items in the market, this market that is near, that you can take your yams to this market, that this is their price for the day, and so on, that the weather today will be good for farming or stuff like that. That's one end of the spectrum, or somewhere in the middle. Let me take us to somewhere like Nigeria. Yeah, in Nigeria now, there are different states, and there's one state now, when you go to the capital, they have a big library, and in that big library, they have up to they have up to 80 computer sets, and there's internet, blazing internet. But that same library is the headquarters of 10 other libraries. And out of those 10 other libraries, only one other library has access to free internet, Wi-Fi. So if you say that, oh, this library in Nigeria has internet, what about the libraries under it? So that's why I think it's been quite difficult to get a figure for this. Then South Africa has more libraries with internet access than other countries in the continent. I give it up to them. Honestly, I've seen some of their public libraries, and they are really good, doing awesome things, even using their facilities to teach users how to code and stuff like that, because they are really good. They are really good. But it's still there. Still in South Africa, there are still some libraries that if you go to, you find out that their internet is very slow. Their facilities need to be changed, and people hardly use those libraries. The next slide, please. So in all this, Don happened to Africa. Don, through him, we were able to get 5 libraries in Nigeria to have access to internet through Starlink. And these are some of their pictures, advertising it. But those libraries were mainly in the capital cities of Abuja, Lagos, and Kaduna. Then they moved into the rural areas. They didn't even move into the semi-urban areas because Starlink couldn't say that their signals were not getting there yet then. And these are like some of the testimonies that the librarians there shared, that when this internet was there, that they had more users, people were using their facilities more, and that it really worked well for them to a large extent. Next slide, please. But there were challenges. I know that I went to one library and I told them that, hey, where you put the dish, so to speak, that it was being obstructed by a tree, so that they had to cut down the tree to ensure that they had more, that their internet was better. But all of them had this problem that the router, once the power goes off, the power supply goes off, the router will shut down and the whole internet too, because it was connected through a router. And when you know how stable electricity is in Nigeria, you will understand that it was really a pain for them in the neck. And then sometimes they say that that there were fluctuations, but all in all, the speed was good overall for downloading and uploading of stuff online. Next slide. Yeah, and I wrote this separately. I'm not sure I told Don about this person. And I say that innovation is a mindset. And why I put it this way is that there was a mistake that I saw that was made initially and was never corrected. You see, you can give people technology, you can give people internet access, you can give people new equipment, new tools, but if there's no training, to let them know that these are the things you can do with this thing that you have, it is very problematic. And this person stood out amongst all of them. And that's why I said innovation is a mindset, because this person confirmed what we did in AFLIA a long time ago when we trained librarians in public library through the Internally program, funded by the now rested Innovative Libraries of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. This lady was amongst them, and from the Starlink internet in her library, she she started a program that she called Screening for Development. And what she was doing was she worked with NGOs to get access to movies, good movies that spoke about aspects of SDGs and so on. She worked with them, and they got the licensing to show in the library, or to share in the library. And in doing that, she will now invite members of the community and tell them, we are going to show this film in the library. And when they come and she shows the film, people will now take up the mic, like if open mic something, take up the mic and share their views. So if we stop open, let's say, no, I don't want to use that example. So let's say if we ask questions of our politicians, it will make the country a better place. So she used the program or the service as a kind of for civic engagement to let people know about their rights, about their obligations, and what they have to do as citizens of a country. And it was quite popular, because even she was eventually the internet.
Nakim?
Hello?
Hello.
Hello? You can't hear me again?
Yes,
I went off.
for a moment.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, fine.
All right. So I say that people are still asking, when can they start showing the films again? Because they want to have a say about how the country is going, things that are happening in the country, that they want to share. That they want to speak out, because those films were helping them to realize that there is more about civic engagement than just being a citizen of a country, getting your voter's card, voting, and stuff like that. So she was doing that with that internet from Starlink. Then she also started what she called a writer's cocktail, and access to internet helped them to see so many books online, then you could call it a book club, but with a difference, because it was mostly for writers, where they come and now share ideas. Oh, this person wrote it this way. What if it was me? Could I have written it another way? And that brought in plenty of people, quite a number of people to her library. According to her, that it changed the that before it was just young people that wanted to take exams that were coming, but with these programs that she now saw older people, civil servants, retirees coming to be a part of the programs, because she said that they now felt that the library was offering them what suited them, not just books, but services, programs that help them to engage and interact with one another. The next slide, please. Yeah, we still have many, many rivers to cross, actually. Steady gains are being made. I'm sure Hayford is going to talk about that, because Ghana is doing excellently well. And that's why I didn't want to mention it, because Hayford is here. He's going to go into that. But like I said, two questions agitate my mind, who is being left behind? Like I mentioned, imagine 18 million refugees, highest number of internally displaced persons, and statistics say that they outnumber refugees 5-1. So 18 times 5 plus another 18. And then again, we have the highest number of out-of-school children. Do these people have access to the internet? That was what I asked Dawn. That, as we talk about the gains, Starlink and all that it did, it's just for a few people, but there's still a whole lot more of people that don't have access at all. And I told him that right now that I'm staying with my kids in the UK, and I see my grandchildren how they use the internet to learn, early literacy development, learning alphabets, numbers, words, how to spell, and so on. But how many of these kids in those camps have access to that? Next slide, please. And then the elephant in the room is, how can African public libraries bridge this gap in the coming years? What do we do? How can we do it? With who are we going to do it? And I wrote advocacy, advocacy, advocacy. AFLIA had run what we call a ministers roundtable conference. We've done it for 3 times, inviting all the ministers in 54 African countries, those that are in charge of libraries in their countries. Some will come, some won't come. And we'll talk, but all we have been telling them is that, see, libraries are great places. They can be community hubs. They can help your government achieve whatever it wants to achieve. Quality education is important, but without libraries, it can be achieved. And that's, and amongst other things, the need to integrate, openness. That's as per the UNOER recommendation and the UN Open Science recommendation into policies, and the place of libraries in all of this. So they will continue. Sometimes it appears as if, oh, you're not achieving anything. You've hit a brick wall, because they'll ask you, will library bring us food? What will library do for us? And we tell them that sometimes the qualitative benefits are really more than those ones that they can count, the quantitative ones. So we have been on this. Then we are also going on, when I say we, I'm talking of AFLIA, please. We are going on with ensuring that librarians in public libraries, that they have this innovation mindset. Because sometimes it's not really, it's not really just the absence of let's say, resources, but sometimes not having ideas of what to do even when you have those resources. So we are going on with that training to ensure that that as many as we can get to, that they have this new mindset that innovation is critical. If libraries, African public libraries, will continue to be in the picture for big things and bigger things. We are continuing with that Internally program, but we are now doing it online. And then we are also running other programs for public libraries all over Africa. And then we are looking at offline internet options, I mean, you don't have internet in your library, but that is not the end of the world. Can we look at this? So we are speaking with Kiwix, Rachel. This one is Kaju, and then the other one is Kobili. We are trying to see where there are libraries, and we can get a crop of librarians who understand what innovations are, who understand that there are great things you can do when resources are available. How can we get these offline options for you? There should be a last slide, but I think that
That was it.
all right. No. There's a last slide. Somehow I missed it out. That last slide, I said not yet Uhuru, because we are continuing to grow our network for learning, mapping, and then data collection on the activities of these libraries. And I think in 2 or 3 weeks' time, we are going to have a visual summit for African public and community libraries to get together again online, talk, let us know. What is it that you're doing? How are you doing it? How can AFLIA work with you? How can others learn from you? Because the important thing is to, like I say, that innovation mindset, so that let's get primed. Let's get them primed and ready for resources that may come their way, whether offline options or internet, so that when it comes, they can really hit the road running. Thank you, Don.
That's wonderful, Kim. I mean, what a challenge! Incredible. The offline approach, I think, it really rounds out the innovation mindset. So it says, don't let anything be a barrier to just stop you. There's always something to be done. The Offline Internet Consortium has been working on this idea for years now, and it pretty much says that the internet is not the only way to receive and transmit digital content. You can do it with a thumb drive, and that with a thumb drive and a computer and maybe a local network that's not connected to the internet, you can create a school, you can create a community network. And the resources that run on such a thing can make a tremendous difference. Like the Khan Academy and Wikipedia, you can get both those really valuable resources just on a thumb drive, and you can do a whole ton of learning opportunities and information sharing with that. So it's a strategy for what to do until the internet arrives. And or if you lose the internet, it's a good backup as well. Kudos for picking up on that. Maybe we can help boost their attention to you, but it sounds like you're working with all the right people on that. The other point you made that really stuck with me was on civic engagement, was to show people their rights, but also their obligations, so that it's actually two essential parts of citizenship, is knowing your rights and believing in your obligations, because without the obligations, you won't really the rules and laws are well, they're not very effective at best. And so that's a great pairing of two important ideas there. And so the satellite question, the Starlink question, remains kind of the tough problem. But it looks like a solution. It can go anywhere, but is it affordable? And if it is affordable, will it operate without electricity? Which is no. So how do you assure electricity? Well, there are a lot of relatively simple, inexpensive solar systems, even a house system for just a couple of $100 can drive a Starlink dish for a number of hours just on a simple battery. So there are ways to do that. And that's also something that we're advocating that every library should have is a backup connectivity. I mean, if we didn't learn that from the from Asheville, North Carolina, and the incredible devastation of the hurricane that went through there last year, just knocked everything out. And when everything is out, yeah, it includes your cell system. If it's not completely out, it's way overloaded. Of course, your home internet is out if you even have a home, and you have to go somewhere. You have to find out what's going on. So the library is one of the obvious places to go for answers and access to information and communication because people want to know where their people are. Where's my family and my friends? Are they okay? And it's a really small piece of data. Mom, we're okay. But it's a tremendous amount of information. I mean, it's great, incredibly valuable to just to get that message. And so it doesn't take much, but it takes something. And so libraries as backup and having backup plans is a drum we've been banging for a long time. And that should consist of uh, not necessarily Starlink, because we're seeing a new system coming on here and more to the future, but having that kind of a satellite system and backup power is really smart in the day and age we're living in. So with that, great challenges that you've presented for us, Nakim, we'll turn to Hayford Siaw. Hayford is, among other things, the former National Librarian of Ghana. And Hayford and I were partners in soliciting a grant from the Internet Archive. We didn't, not the Internet Archive, sorry, Internet Society. We didn't quite get it, but it was a real experience to get acquainted and kind of blend our objectives and ideas. So Hayward, it's great to see you again and have you back.
Yeah,
Please,
great to see you, Don. I
please,
believe my mic is clear.
you're clear as a bell.
Yes, so now I have a lot of time on my hand because I'm no more the chief executive, so we can be looking for more grants to implement some projects. But yes, thank you for the introduction and warm greetings to everyone online. And Nkem, that was a fantastic discussion and issues you raised in your presentation. And I found, this movement, quite crucial, especially for Ghana and Africa, because of the conversation around telecom infrastructure, digital assets, the evolving mandate of public libraries, and of course, the cost of internet. Recently in the news in Ghana, we had young people, agitating online and trolling the Minister for Communication because of data cost. And so, in as much as this conversation is going on, I see an opportunity for public libraries, to get their voice heard and to also provide alternative pathways for citizens to get, access to internet. But be as it may, a lot of report and Income did mention the fact that a certain percentage average of citizens within the continent have smartphones access and internet connectivity. But of course, most of these connectivity access on the continent are dominant, within the urban areas. And she did mention, in Abuja, where the Starlink connectivity was only being able to place in an urban center, because at that time, Starlink had probably not expanded the scope of connectivity around the area. And it is the same in Ghana. But luckily for us now, as I speak, I think Starlink almost have 100% coverage in Ghana. But of more telling is the fact that, World Bank estimated that only around 36% of Africans have regular access to the internet via broadband connection. And majority of these connections, remains mobile only. So, in as much as, yes, we are talking about connectivity and all of that, even the penetration that we are seeing, are more like, people having access to, these services via their smartphones. This creates, of course, a structural limitation. Smartphone is usually, it's quite useful, yes, but it cannot fully support the tasks, such as probably filling some, forms or navigating, digital government services, maybe accessing high bandwidth learning platforms, participating in remote work opportunities, which are kind of very crucial roles that, public libraries can actually provide for their citizens. And with, of course, the limitation also, you are kind of limited in even exploring some of these AI-assisted tools that requires a bit of stable connections. And, you are also limited on the kind of digital content, you can be able to produce. And so, as much as libraries are trying to organize a lot of training programs, in Ghana, we do graphic design training, we do robotics and coding training, and all of those services. These are productive use of technological platforms. So citizens are not just consuming, but of course they are creating. And so if the penetration is not that very deep with respect to, broadband access and, having the alternative access in terms of the digital tools, of course, you cannot be able to participate in some of these things. And I believe that public libraries provide, an avenue for that. In Ghana, libraries have been collaborating with a lot of private stakeholders. Government support was at its glorious moment between 2018 to 2021. Because I had then developed a strategic plan. And within that strategic plan, one of my anchor projects was, of course, to transform the public library space through technology. And I got a lot of support from, some of the telcos and, mining companies in Ghana. We have MTN in Ghana, supporting and building libraries, Vodafone then in Ghana, connecting some of our libraries to the internet, even government-owned funding through the free senior high school program provided us with a lot of resources to be able to support. Government of Ghana came up with a digital, Ghana Digital information strategy where it supported public libraries to also have some sort of connections. And so we were able to leverage on that to be able to provide some sort of, access. So while Africa now has over 650 million users, handset-based participation, is still quite shallow. Households struggle with data prices, and I did mention with you what we've been, experienced. That remain among the highest relative, income. I mean, in Ghana, for example, it is estimated that about 5 to 8% of monthly income, is spent on data. So you have a country that, predominantly described as being poor, where people struggle to even make $1 a day. And you have to spend about 5 to 8% of that, on data for your phone. So yes, people have access to the smartphones, but the smartphones, they are not even able to purchase data on it. But I recall that my days with the library, what we did was that we worked with some of the telcos company to zero-rate the digital library platform that I created. So what it means is that even when you don't have data and you want to learn, at least from the Library of Ghana Libraries repository, you're able to access it without necessarily it being a charge on your data that you've uploaded on your phone. And so that provided us, of course, a lot of room for people to participate within the use of our digital library, these services. But of course, there has emerged an unexpectedly powerful equalizer in Ghana. When I took over, we had then 61 public libraries. As at the time I was leaving, I have managed to more than double it to 137. And the rollout of the library transformation program, as I described, helped me to connect about half of those libraries to internet. And we use different forms. So some of them we have a router, which is connected to the telecoms landline, landline cabling. Some of them also, the router uses a SIM card, so they have broadband SIM cards, and then you are able to broadcast it. Of course, the difficulty, as has been described previously, is of course how slow some of these areas that have a bit of connection experience. But what we learned from that investment is that it does not really require that much, to turn a library into a digital access hub. Reliable broadband, computer structured programming and training facilitated. Very small investment, but of course you experience a lot of outcomes. I think when I first spoke on this platform, I did mention to you during, I think we spoke just after the COVID. And I did indicate to you how, we had managed to be able to work with the Commonwealth of Learning to make what we call it, online learning programs from Udemy and Coursera available to Ghanaians. And it was remarkable to see that within such a very short period, you have over 45,000 Ghanaians that had taken some sort of the online courses, and you have every single moment people just going into our various libraries and begging for opportunity to get access to some of these online courses. This was on the back of the fact that our staff were also very well trained to be able to manage personnel and guide them to be able to register and be approved to participate in some of these online programs. Just recently, Ghana, 2-3 years ago, we had a consortium with IFIL, and we managed to win a grant from the Internet Society Foundation. And we did training for about 15 of our library, 15 libraries had their personnel trained to be able to offer digital literacy training programs for users of our various public library spaces. But of very significant to us as part of the program was the fact that our personnel had the opportunity to be trained. And so even after the funding has elapsed, what is going to be happening is that the skills are still with our personnel, and they can still be able to move on with the program. And that's, I think, Nkem referred to the need, for personnel training, so that some of these interventions and programs that we are talking about, become sustainable. Now, the crucial thing that you described in your presentation is now the era of AI. For AI, assume a level of, for AI, it assumes that there's a level of digital readiness, by libraries, device capabilities, stable internet, data literacy, and ethical understanding. These are all assumptions that, they are in place, because AI doesn't wait for anybody, And so without the baseline, AI, I believe, is going to accelerate inequality. With it, AI becomes, if you, of course, you have all of those variables in place, then AI becomes a sort of a development accelerator, and how you can able to, leverage on the little that you have, can see the kind of services that you can provide to your citizens. Now, the need, therefore, for librarians and people working in the library space to be trained so that our public library becomes AI enablement hubs is kind of critical. Community spaces where citizens can safely learn, experiment, and understand the AI systems. Currently, there is none. Currently, we are all, within the public library space, everybody is hearing about AI, but as to really what it is, people feel that, okay, AI is going to type GPT or Gemini and trying to reply to your email and it's coming up with some sort of prompt so that you can just, okay, I like this text, let me just send it. But there is the need, for us to be able to, get more people trained in that area. And I believe that that's where a lot of opportunity, exists for us in the ecosystem to see, okay, how do we prepare our personnel to be able to really, be able to really support citizens' optimum use of AI technologies and of course, ethical use of it. Within the political landscape on the continent, or even around the world, you've seen how people are using AI to really, really embarrass politicians. You probably have not made a statement, but AI is used unethically, to be able to just cause a lot of troubles on the continent. But we believe that there are better services, of course, that can be provided and supported with the support of AI. Seven as libraries being recognized as digital public service intermediaries, providing access to government portals, digital ID system, online learning, and a lot of global knowledge networks. I believe that a lot more advocacy, of course, will also be required. And, AFLIA has been doing, a bit to support that. I think the more support that they can be able to get to be able to, amplify, these at the governmental level will all, lead to the overall, influence and support for public libraries. And Ken made a comment, about how a lot of people still do not really find libraries significant, or they do not appreciate the essence of libraries, because they think that going to Google and searching for information is the same as probably going and walking into a library, and that whatever that I need to read, I can find it on the internet. So why should I go to the and I remember during my days about 4 or 5 years ago, I was doing a presentation for Ghana Library Authority to members of parliament, defending our audit outcomes. And one politician, just raised the voice and said, why do we even need libraries? Libraries, who goes to the libraries these days? Immediately my reaction was described as disrespect, because I couldn't believe that somebody occupying a position or within a geographical, seen as a leader, who have been to school, educated, you've probably used a library to be able to learn before. You do not find libraries relevant, and you want to deny your citizens access to library. My reaction was really, 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 it was described as disrespectful, but it was all in sort of my passion to support and advocate for library. So there is a lot more even education that is required on policymakers to be able to understand even the role that public libraries can even play when it comes to this AI revolution, and how we can be able to support citizens' access to information and student learning. Around the world, libraries have always been seen as trusted community institutions. And for me, at the time when information reliability matters more than ever, we need to be able to kind of reinforce that narrative. Good thing is that there's also a seeming interest at the AU level, at the African Union level, that nations can tap into and learn from each other. Inkem mentioned a lot of the advancement that is being done in South Africa. Yes, Ghana has also done so much. And we've had requests from some states, even in Nigeria, some other countries, contacting Ghana, for support on how we've managed to do what we do. And so, if at the continental level, the African Union Digital Transformation Strategy, for example, targeted universal digital identity and 50% broadband access by 2030. So, which means that if African Union is in a certain set target, then of course it provides an opportunity for countries to tap in. Achieving this will not come, of course, solely from commercial networks. It will require community level institutions that bridge gaps quickly and affordably, and libraries fits in there. Ghana's experience, as I've mentioned, Ghana's experience demonstrate, of course, that libraries can do this work. From just 61 libraries, 137 libraries, just within a matter of 6 years, driven really by market forces, telecoms and all of that, supporting us to be able to do that. But in situations where telecoms even try to roll out, broadband access, and they are not able to provide the speed at which internet, because they go at where there is a huge demand for service. You can put a library there and be able to provide just one connection, and citizens will have access to that. In Ghana, we have government, we have something we call GIFIC, Ghana Investment Fund for Electronic Communication. And that has been an agency that the government has been pumping money into to be able to help spread connectivity across the country. Lucky for us as a country, for me, I think Starlink is a blessing, because GIFIC was spending so much money, connecting and mounting all of this, mounting all of these, towers across the country. Now with Starlink, you can just put this dish on, on the roof, and boom, you will get access to internet and provide a certain set of services for the citizens. So yes, I think these are my initial thoughts, and I'll be happy to listen to any further comments, because I'm really, really passionate about this area, and I believe that there's a lot of opportunities for us on the continent. Thank you. Oh, Don, I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Thank you. I completely agree that the challenges are vast, the opportunities are vast, and the value of Starlink and this technology is that it can create an experience that can translate into an ongoing demand. If people want something, they can find a way to get it. If they don't know what it is, it's hard to really make it work. So I think this is one of the values of the low Earth orbit satellites, is they can provide that experience anywhere. You also can, affordability remains a challenge, as Nakim was touching on. It's great that you can do that, and if you can keep it on, but if you can't afford it, what's the point? So there are challenges there to be solved. And there are strategies to do that, aggregating demand, splitting the costs among more people. And of course, a library is a type of place that does that very thing. That's what libraries do, as pool resources to share among the community. You can also turn these off. You can put them on standby, which is a really valuable thing. You don't have to have it as your primary source. Maybe it is, but it's just a development that is offering a lot of promise. I'm glad you brought up AI. One more thing about connectivity is that the places that are connected are typically near the coast. And sorry. So you can see all those sharp lines around the perimeter of the continent. Those are all big access lines going across the ocean and around to Asia. And so naturally, it's much simpler and less expensive to connect cities near the coast. So I'm sure that's drawing lots of people to the coast for opportunities and economic opportunities. AI is really fascinating. I mean, of course, it's a big topic. We're running over a few minutes, but I thought this was a really important point that Hayford brought up. And we're of the opinion that there's a special relationship between AI and libraries. I mean, these are quintessential information inventions. We can call a library an invention, AI an invention, and how they evolve together, co-evolve over time is a unique situation. It's not like, the fire department and AI and, a health center and AI. Those are all application areas. But what is AI? Understanding AI, learning about AI, that's the business of libraries. The literacy tradition of libraries is ideal for this. So public officials need to be challenged. Well, it's great that we have an AI strategy and we want to prevent this harmful stuff and we want these companies to do this and that. But what about the users of AI? How do they really learn about what it is, what it can do, what it might not be encouraged to do? Well, these are very practical uses at the end user level, and there's no one that deals with that as well as public libraries. I mean, every institution should have some kind of orientation, but a lot of people are not attached to institutions. So libraries can play that role, and I think it's really going to be a key lever to answering that question that you got from the parliamentary member, or what are libraries good for? I mean, it's unbelievably short-sighted, but this is a response. Coping with AI is a big deal, and libraries are just ideally suited to step up and assert, not just wait to be asked, as librarians typically do, but assert this is an important role that they're unique to play and let others know that. Advocate for libraries as opposed to wait to be asked something, which is kind of the default setting. So I'm going to ask Nakim if she has a final comment. Running over a little bit, but if you just, I'd like to go back to Nakim and then to Hayford to give us a final word. Nakim?
Yeah, I'm still here, Don. Thank you very much. Let me take off from what Hayford said about what was asked. Are libraries important? You see, we get that question all the time, because I believe that when libraries came into Africa, or we started our libraries, it was all about education only, just for the people that could read and write in our official languages. But another thing we are doing too is to let people know that please try to get resources in your local languages, to make sure that you situate the library as an institution that belongs to everyone, that is useful for everyone, and not just for a particular section of the society. And I also believe that as we do this, and as AI continues to continues to grow in the role that is playing in our lives now, it will situate the library in a better place, so that everybody can go in there and get whatever he or she wants, or either to read or to create or to see or to mix, So yes, that's just my last point. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said. Hayford, final word.
Yes, thank you. I think my final comment will be for us to ponder on how libraries evolve into AI literate institutions that support national development goals, especially on the continent of Africa, where most of the issues have got to do with bread and butter. So once we are not able to link, how it can support national development goals, people tend not to appreciate the impact And just like Inka mentioned, people have always seen libraries as a sort of place to go and learn when you are able to only read and write in the official language. And so that's a discussion that must go on, and a lot of advocacy is still required. Libraries in Africa still need a lot of support to be able to coexist, especially in this AI age. And I believe that we are positioned at the right time to be able to do that. Thank you.
Bravo. That's just a great closing point. And thank you both again, Hayford and Nakem, for your outstanding work and these excellent presentations. And the recording, we'll keep this for, I don't know how long time, for people to review and think about and act on, we'll hope. So with that, we're gonna close the recording.